Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm Sir Gerry Grimstone. I'm the chairman of Standard Life Aberdeen. And can I first thank the ambassador for entertaining us here today, but also equally importantly for giving us the benefit of his remarks. It's a great pleasure to be here. I think our event is most timely. It allows us to take stock not just of the rapidly changing landscape in Germany, in Britain, and indeed across Europe. I'll say a few words about Brexit. I'm perhaps less constrained than our ambassador is, and I can talk about it a little bit from the perspectives of business. But I will also range a little bit wider in my remarks. There is more to life than Brexit. It's not always easy to appreciate that if you're working in financial services in London. But I'll talk a little bit about how I see how things will play out after Brexit, particularly for Germany, and particularly for an ambitious global player like Standard Life Aberdeen. So I will talk a little bit about our own ambitions, how we're building a world-class investment company, and in particular, the deal we announced last week with Phoenix Group, which affects directly a number of people in this room who help us do the very important job of servicing our clients in Germany. In terms of the wider picture, my personal belief is that we have been living through a global revolution in the last few years. This isn't a Marxist revolution like we saw in Cuba or in Venezuela, where young men with beards in tanks rode into town. This has been a much more slowly playing out revolution. But you can see the manifestations of it in terms of the rise of populism in many different manifestations around the world. A lot of the things that my generation has taken for granted over the last 50 years are clearly changing, have changed. And I believe the mark of a successful business, and for people in this room, is how are we all going to adapt to that changing landscape. After the meteor hit the world some billions of years ago, which caused dinosaurs to become extinct, it was those animals, those organisms, which could react most quickly to that cataclysmic event, found self-advantage and self-interest. And I see Brexit a little bit in that category. You might guess from the tone of my comments that I am not pro-Brexit. Much has changed in Europe. We're very pleased that the negotiations in Germany have come to a successful conclusion. It is so important for the UK to have a strong Germany and a strong German voice, because we are so similar in so many ways. It's in France, it's less than a year since Mr. Macron was elected. And of course, in the UK, we have an apparently unstable position which somehow continues to remain stable. And our fervent hope is that that continues, at least through the Brexit negotiations. So a lot of uncertainty, so it's very important for all of us to keep a positive vision through that uncertainty, to stay focused on our goals, for businesses like ours, to stay focused on customers. This is all a bit highfalutin, all a bit technical for customers. What customers want to know, particularly in financial services, is that the services and products that they've been used to will continue to be delivered to them. And I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. It would be impertinent for me to offer any advice as to how I think that Brexit will play out over the next few months. As we heard from the ambassador, literally every week, every month from now on is going to be critical. The last 18 months have seen the United Kingdom negotiating with itself to a large extent to try to maintain a settled position which we can then talk to our friends in the EU about. That process has been largely completed, but the very interesting matter now is how will our position stand the test when it is subject to negotiation with our EU partners, and why it's so fortunate that we have people of the caliber of our ambassador here, to help us on that journey. We all know that for at least some of our industries, we have to align them with the single market. It's vitally important in financial services we do that. And I hope that our European colleagues will agree with us on that. I'm a great believer in some of these technical matters in sectors such as asset management, insurance and banking, in financial services. We have to make the case bottom upwards from the perspective of the customer as opposed to top downwards. But these stakes are very high for government, for business, and for citizens across Europe. So what do I hope to see from the negotiations? Of course, continued deep market access for financial services providers. Customers throughout Europe have benefited from being able to buy products cross-border into the UK and vice versa. Secondly, a proper transitional period. As Mr. Barnier likes to remind us, the clock is ticking. And the clock has ticked so much now, it's almost coming to the point where in financial services, we have no time to do the preparations which are necessary for implementation. And I'll come to that in a moment. I hope very much that we're all able to recruit talent and retain talent from across Europe, that our young people can go from country to country to work and to visit. Continuity for existing long-term contracts. Many of our customers here have contracts which have been in place for more than 10 years. I mean, it would be ludicrous if the benefits of those contracts are not still available to our customers after Brexit. And of course, regulatory continuity and cooperation to allow our countries to continue to work together. The attitude of Germany is going to be of paramount importance to this. And I hope in this room, those who have some influence on those matters, will take the deep desire of us to have a long continuing partnership with Germany, with them into the negotiations which will go on from now onwards. Let me turn now briefly to our plans for Standard Life Aberdeen, because that affects many of the people in this room. We have been on a strategic journey with Standard Life for the last 14 years, 15 years. I've been chairman of the company since 2007. I'm the longest serving financial services chairman in the UK. And our desire has been we've transformed the company from being Europe's largest mutual life assurance company increasingly into a world-class investment business focused on asset management and distribution. And as many of you will know, that last week, 2 weeks ago, we announced a new and deeper strategic partnership with Phoenix. And I'm very pleased that we're joined today by Simon True, who is the Group Chief Actuary for Phoenix. Simon, perhaps I should ask you to stand up, so that afterwards in drinks, people might want to talk directly to Simon about Phoenix's plans for Germany. I think it's very exciting for Germany, our deal with Phoenix. Through this deal, Phoenix will become the largest consolidator of back books in the whole of Europe. And it wasn't incidental to them that we have a very good German business. Because part of the corporate strategy of Phoenix, which I will allow Simon to talk about afterwards, is to expand their business in Germany. And I have to say they are going to be more ambitious, more energetic than we were in wanting to build on our very valuable business that we have here in Germany. And it was one of the factors why Phoenix were keen to come to this partnership with us. I should absolutely stress that this partnership doesn't mean that we are losing interest in this business. We have acquired a 20% stake in Phoenix. We're going to have 2 directors on the board. And it's part of my general business philosophy, which companies should do what they're best at. Phoenix is very good at insurance, very good at managing back books, very good at handling customers, has a tremendous reputation with the regulators in the United Kingdom. We're very good at providing investment solutions, providing investment products for those companies. So it was a natural partnership to try to bring our 2 great companies together. We have over 500,000 customers in Germany. This is very, very important to us. The sadness of Brexit is that we have to believe we cannot service any of those customers out of the United Kingdom once Brexit occurs. Because there seems to be general agreement that there will be no passporting of retail financial services. Those customers have benefited from being customers of a British company. They bought their products thinking they were customers of a British company. And my point earlier about continuity of contracts, it is surprising to me that actually our German customers and our friends in Germany haven't argued perhaps more loudly and strongly, as we are doing, that the continuity of those contracts should be continued. It's still not too late to do that, and I hope that we can argue that the benefits that our customers have from those contracts will be preserved. So how are we going to protect their interests in the case of Brexit? I'm very pleased that Phoenix have agreed to completely step into the plans that we have. Our plans are very well advanced because we have to guarantee complete continuity of service for our brokers, for our advisors, and for our customers after Brexit. So we are having to transfer over 500,000 customers from London to Dublin. And this is a responsibility that Phoenix will now take on. Very complicated legal process, incredibly irritating if you're the chairman of the board that is having to do it, but luckily invisible as far as the customer is concerned. Because the process is you have to apply to the High Court in the United Kingdom. The various contracts are varied, very long, tortuous process. The only impact on customers is they'll start to receive letters from Dublin in due course, as opposed to as from London. But I have to say, practically, what a nonsense, what a waste of economic and intellectual effort that we are having to do it. But I can assure everybody in this room that we will do it. Phoenix will do it on our behalf now going forward. And from March 2019, we will be ready and have the work done. So a lot happening. So I'm very pleased that we've come together this evening. I hope you don't mind that I hijacked the event a little bit to talk about our plans, because I know they are of concern to people in the room. Pensions, of course, though, is the reason why we are really here tonight. I'm constantly surprised, as the chairman of the largest pensions company in Britain, that people aren't more agitated about pensions across Europe. We've never managed to make pensions and pensions policy popular. Now, this is surprising because it is so important, not just to our citizens, but to governments in due course, how we finance pensions. I absolutely hope that the capital markets in Britain remain connected to the pensions industry in Germany and elsewhere in Europe going forward. It would be a nonsense for every German citizen if the benefits of accessing global capital markets aren't available to them through London. But I'm confident that sense will prevail on that, and that will happen. So I'll hand you over now to our moderators and our speakers for this evening to talk about pensions. I'm very happy to answer any questions, perhaps take a couple of questions now if people wanted to, or later in the evening about either our plans for Brexit. As I said, Simon will talk about the plans for continuity and the exciting growth plans for the company going forward. But thank you again for coming this evening, and thank you again, Ambassador, for hosting us. Thank you.
Standard Life. The way forward.